Chapter 31. I just stared as I tried to plan something that would work. Something that would just put an end to this. I knew that I had to do something, and I knew that I was going to get hurt. If I do something soon, then hopefully there will be a small chance that I'll make it out of this alive. And even if I don't. I shook my head. I couldn't start doubting. Getting killed was part of a pet's life. It was unavoidable, so I've known that this was going to happen for many years. At least if I were to die tonight, it would be in the hands of my own master. I sucked in a shaky breath, every part of my body telling me that this was a mistake. I knew this was a mistake, but what choice did I have? Either way, I was going to end up hurt or dead. I exhaled that same breath. Now or never. I closed my hands into a fist as I bit down hard onto the inside of my cheek. It didn't take long for the metallic taste of blood to reach my tongue. I've been told that even the smallest scent of blood during this night could make a vampire unable to hold themselves together. Even if that's not exactly what I wanted to happen, it was the only thing that I could do. Conjuring whatever last drop of courage that I could muster, I slowly exhaled a breath through my mouth. The taste of my own blood was like tasting poison, knowing that it was going to get me killed. I flinched as Nico's head suddenly shot up, his eyes fixed straight ahead. Even I could hear the faint sound of him sniffing the air, his eyes growing wider as he did. "Chloe, whatever the hell you're doing, you need to stop." His threatening tone was overpowered by the shakiness of his voice. He didn't even look at me, probably knowing that once he did, he'd be a goner. He was a lot better at fighting it than I thought. So, despite what every sensible part of my body was saying, I took a step forward. And then another, and another. He didn't need me to stop. What he really needed was for me to keep going. So, that was what I was going to do. I held my blood in my mouth as I approached his bed. If a smell didn't work on him, then the last option I had was a taste. I froze for a second, rethinking the plan that popped into my mind. I was definitely going to die. If he didn't end up killing me tonight, then he'll probably end up killing me for what I was about to do next. And for every time I've disobeyed him prior to this moment. Maybe he wouldn't kill me, just punish me. I don't even know which one would be better. Still, I carried on, slowly making my way onto his bed. Every option I could take lead to me dying, so I may as well go out like this. Instead of dying like a coward like I always thought I would. As soon as the bed shifted ever so slightly from my weight, Nico completely froze, still not daring to look in my direction. "Chloe. Seriously go Awa," he stopped as I slowly crawled next to him. His wings surrounded his own body, shielding him from being able to see me at all. His wings were beautiful really. It's a shame that I won't be able to see them for much longer. "Do you have a death wish or something?" he asked frantically. Not a wish, in fact, according to him, it was my responsibility. Dying wasn't something that I ever wanted to happen, but it was going to whether I liked it or not. His wings stiffened as I touched them, enough so for me to be able to force them apart. He had to have separated them partially himself because I doubt that I could have overpowered his wings. I paused once I saw his position. He was forcing himself back against the headboard as much as he could, almost as if he was scared of me. His eyes met mine for barely a second before he squeezed them shut, turning his head away from me. Even his nails were digging into the sheets, trying to keep himself together. He opened his mouth, probably to scold me or tell me to go away, but nothing came out. My heart was thundering in my chest as I inched closer to him, careful to not touch him. This was it. I was actually about to do this. Taking one more deep breath, I reached out. Chapter 32. Nico's POV. Everything was chaotic within my own body. A sensation that no vampire, no matter how old they were, could get used to. Something about the blood moon did this to us, enhanced our senses enough that it almost made us go insane. Our bodies would run on our long-forgotten instincts, making even the almost silent humming of a light bulb sound like a blaring siren. Not to mention the immense pain that ran through our entire bodies for no reason other than to make us give in and let it take over. Once it finally did, we had barely any control over what happened until it began to get the blood that it craved. These instincts were supposed to keep us alive, yet all they did was make us suffer. All because of the damned moon. It must have overtaken me, judging by the fact that the world was calming down around me. Nothing but darkness surrounded me, like I was just sitting in nothingness. It was surreal almost, just relaxing and letting whatever was happening happen. What even was happening? Why was I even fighting it? Fighting it has never worked, not for me nor for anyone else. I couldn't even remember why I had decided to. I thought I was holding it off just fine this time, but something changed that really fast. It had been a while since I tried to fight it, so what brought me to do it this time? Letting it take over was so much easier. I could feel the pain in my body lessen as my senses began to weaken to their normal state, showing that I had apparently gotten what I needed for this night. This smell. I knew it so well, but couldn't seem to pinpoint what it belonged to. Or who it belonged to. Yes, it was definitely a who. I began to be able to feel the things around me. What was I holding onto? It felt like skin. It was cooler than a human's, yet it wasn't a vampire's. And this taste. I knew this taste, it was unmistakable. I could feel my stomach turn as soon as the realization hit me. It was Chloe. Light filled my vision as I forced my eyes open, regaining full control over what I was doing. The whole experience was like crashing back into reality. I promptly removed my fangs from her neck as soon as I possibly could, swallowing the small amount of blood that was in my mouth with an exasperated breath. Memories of what happened quickly began to return to me as my shaky breaths sounded through the room. Memories of what she did before this all happened. I inhaled sharply, removing my hands from her wrists as squeezed my eyes shut, trying my best through my still groggy mind to piece everything together. She sacrificed herself. Despite everything I told her to do, she disregarded it so that I would feed from her. She forced me to feed from her. Why? My mind quickly shifted once I opened my eyes and noticed what state she was in. Her entire body was still. Deathly still. Sure, she was still breathing, but for how long? Panic began to build up inside me as I looked at the bleeding wound on her neck. I quickly licked my thumb, placing it on the wound. Ironically, something about our saliva helped stop the bleeding, and I knew that she needed every last drop that she had left. My eyes furrowed as I tried to remember how much I had taken. It had to have been at least a liter, maybe 2 if not more. I could feel my breaths begin to quicken as worry started to settle in, my wings folding tightly against my back. Damn it. What was she thinking? I was trying to keep this from happening. Chloe, I spoke quickly through my breaths, cupping her face in my hands. No response, not even a single muscle of hers reacted. I honestly don't know why I thought that I'd get one from her. I wiped one of the leftover tears from her face with my thumb. Her body was completely limp, her breaths quiet yet quicker than normal. Anger began to slowly surface as I closely observed her condition. Damn it, Chloe, open your eyes. I partially begged, knowing that it was a futile effort. I couldn't lose another one. Not again. This moon has taken more things from. Chapter 33. Nico's Pav. I quickly stood atop the windowsill, pressing my fingertips against the glass window. My eyes glanced around outside, looking out for any signs of immediate danger. The vampires that didn't have possession over slave or pet would have to resort to looking outside the castle to find something to satisfy their hunger. Unfortunately, it wasn't easy. Every human in the city hid themselves. Even the animals stayed hidden, which normally meant that either the vampires out here would break into their houses, or feed on each other. The latter was more common due to it reasonably just being easier and more efficient. A vampire dying from blood loss was practically impossible, our advanced healing abilities wouldn't allow it. I pushed open the window, letting the cold air that showed the beginning of winter flow into the room as I took another step forward. Still, I was no exception to this. Vampires were quiet flyers while on the hunt, so getting attacked was definitely a possibility. And a fight against a bloodthirsty vampire was not an easy one to win. I opened my wings enough to allow the cool air to meet them. The one night we get our wings for free, and this is what I use them for. Was I really about to do this for my pet? My pet of all damn things? I shook my head. The hell? Of course I was. She just sacrificed herself so that I could get what I needed. The least I could do was do something to keep her alive. Had this been any of my past pets, this idea wouldn't have even come into consideration. Losing Chloe after this just seemed like such a waste. I took another step forward. Setting my hand against the window frame, I stuck my head outside. My eyes scanned the immediate area as my hair tossed in the breeze. I couldn't see or hear anyone near me, but that didn't mean that they weren't there. Taking one last precautionary measure, I inhaled deeply through my nose. Another vampire's scent was very hard to miss, and they were definitely around here. I couldn't really tell how close due to the abundance of them out here, but I was pretty sure that I would be safe if I hurried. My eyes narrowed as I looked down at the city. Due to my job, I knew that there was one young man that for sure had B-negative blood, and I'm pretty sure that I knew which general area of the city he lived in. Finding which house he's in will probably be the hardest part. My free hand tightened into a fist. Even though I didn't know how critical Chloe's condition was, I didn't want to waste any more time. I made it so that I was standing on the very edge, extending my wings as much as they could in this windowsill. He lived on the easternmost part of the city, so if I could successfully avoid any interaction with any other vampires. I glanced back at my wings once more. I could get there in about 3 minutes. Ko? I don't think I've ever turned my head so fast in my entire life. Her position hadn't changed, but her eyes were open, not much but they were open. That was a very good sign. She was in better condition than I initially thought. I just stared at her wide-eyed for a long moment, trying to decide what to make of this. Her voice was quiet, but she still had enough energy to talk. Although, her breaths were still shallower and quicker than they should be. Perhaps it was here fear that caused her to lose consciousness instead of blood loss. Even so, she still lost a lot of blood. Where are you going? She asked. Even though her voice was weak, it still held concern. The concern that told me she didn't like whatever was going on. She didn't want me to leave. Really? Right now? I almost just killed her, and that's what she's worried about. Even when trying to do something for her, she didn't want me to leave her alone? I already knew how much safer she felt when I was around, and how much she disliked when I left her alone. I stayed silent for a long moment, observing her to try and see whether or not going out to get blood was really necessary. I'd like to avoid it if it was.